And now this commission wants to understand the extent and the gravity. So abuses are happening, we want to know what they really are. And abuses of human rights and religious rights, and whether or not these abuses starts will lead us even understanding the character and the ambience from which these abuses occurred for many, many years ago. So it's a statement of fact that there are abuses at the mission, and they've been happening basically the last 50 years of the mission. Once again, it's the statement of fact. It's a conclusion. No doubt based on what was presented to the Commission in an untested way. The Mission had the opportunity to test what was presented here. Although, when we were summoned last Friday, we immediately gave full written responses to the video exodus, part 1, to this Commission, that we had submitted to the panel that's been appointed to investigate, and to the South African Police Services with 2 case numbers. We gave that to this Commission. Quite obviously, the Commission has not applied, hasn't even read those submissions. And the ambience in which these abuses occurred even from many, many years ago. And what is even more disturbing, so the hole gets deeper, is the caricature of individuals that have been created by that institution. So this institution has abused individuals, no doubt individuals who came and gave their version here of what they say happened. And I don't think that's the mission, to understand that the inner disturbances, the inner convictions that have been drawn out of that environment have made them, some of them, social misfits. So the mission, the chairman has found that the mission has caused people to become social misfits. What more damning conclusion can there be? Once again, without evidence, without hearing the mission side. And remember, we also invited this commission to be at the mission today so they can come and see, but they refused. Then on to the second page, I'll start at the foot of page 1. They can't relate very well with anybody because they claim to know God is the only one who's vindictive. So now they're talking about what the mission did to these individuals. And very oppressive. And this is perhaps the most egregious attack on the dignity of every congregant at KwaZizabantu. But never known a God of grace, and beginning to experience of God of grace after the departure from that institution. Now, if this commission had just bothered to read, for example, the book Revival Amongst the Zulus by Reverend Stegen, they would find out that the very heart of the ministry is about grace. Is about grace. And what the conclusion of this committee, or of the chairman, and as I say, I don't know if the rest of the commission were aware of this, whether he was talking on their behalf as well, he says only when these people leave the commission do they find grace. That's the whole ministry at the commission, at the mission, is about God's grace. But anyone who's theologically realized that grace is free but not cheap, and they only experience it after their departure. So that's 5 examples of damning conclusions by the chairman. Damning conclusions. A full frontal attack on the dignity of the congregants, having no regard to the fact that the commission is a Chapter 9 institution. It's not simply any creature of statute, it's a Chapter 9 institution. There's a special duty on the commission to comply with constitutional values. Transparency is crucial. Audi ultram partem is crucial. Natural justice is crucial. Protecting individuals. I mean, one of immediately the question that comes to mind is the process and the documentation. Hopefully the rest of the commission are aware of the between us and and the Commission since we were summoned on Friday. Incredibly short notice. And there we highlight, even in the correspondence already, and then we get a letter yesterday from the Chairman reassuring us they'll be impartial, they've made no decisions, they've come to no conclusions, etc., etc., and then we have this interview. But what's particularly striking to me is that the whole process the Commission has encouraged, and one of the things we highlighted in our first response is a letter from the Commission to the press, profusely apologizing to the press, quite clearly being led by the nose by the press, quite clearly trying to satisfy the press, trying to be seen to be doing its work. And that's why the press also was here right from the beginning. They were the first people that we told you spoke to. And even that, we didn't even know about the first 2 days. We found it by a third party. We weren't told. But what's striking, I raised this point this morning. And what is the Commission, what is the Chairman, what's the first thing he does? He kicks the press out. Because now the Commission's credibility is at stake. He kicks the press out. But when the mission's credibility is at stake, the press, they fawn over the press. The Commission fawns over the press. And the struggle of the mission, folk, is, you know, in his trial, Jesus had two responses, to Herod and to Pilate. And to Herod, if you look at the accounts, he gave no answer to his questions. Why? Because he knew Herod wasn't interested in truth. Herod was only interested in furthering his own agenda. Pilate, he gave certain answers, but on his own terms. And that's why we came today. We respect Chapter 9 institution. That's why we've come. And Scripture is quite clear. We need to submit. We need to show respect for the authorities, but not at the expense of natural justice. When they tried to trial Paul in Jerusalem without a trial, what did he do? He claimed audi altum partem and he went to Rome. He wanted a hearing as a Roman citizen. So submission doesn't mean that we cannot call on the Commission to exercise its constitutional duty in terms of Chapter 9. And the evidence from Friday, and it's the final nail in the coffin, is this interview given yesterday. And once again, perhaps the Commission felt, perhaps the picture that's been painted that somehow the mission is this closed community in the Dark Ages and somehow we don't have access to modern technology, etc., etc. Perhaps the Commission didn't think we'd even get rid of hold of this. Anyone who comes from our region, by the way, where the mission is, will realize we're the most progressive, for example, farming community in the entire area, reliant on modern technology. So perhaps the Commission had a picture that they had created, or they allowed themselves to be led into believing, that we wouldn't get hold of this. Because otherwise, that's our problem. And we simply do not believe that this Commission at the moment is capable of giving us a fair hearing, and that it must recuse itself. Not the Chapter 9 institution, the membership of the present Commission. As I say, we still have to ask if the other commissioners knew about this. The Chairman says we. Does he speak on behalf of everyone? Or is it just on behalf of himself? We don't know that. We only got this late last night. We've had to work under extreme pressure. Those who know where the mission is, it's difficult to access the mission. It's not easy, just physically to get there beyond Stanger. But that's our problem. Our problems. And we would therefore ask that the appropriate thing is for at the very least the Chairman to immediately recuse himself. And we have to rely on the integrity of the other commissioners. We're not sure if they've also reached these conclusions before they heard us. We're not sure. Scripture also teaches that we must always think everything that's good and kind, and we must always give the benefit of the doubt. And that's what grace requires as well. But that doesn't mean being stupid and not fighting for natural justice and not being firm.
mind if I respond?
No, that's fine.
Let's first get one thing straight. You weren't summoned. You were requested to appear. You were requested to appear.
And we're threatened by Section 7.
We can only issue summons in terms of Section 7.
Yeah.
This wasn't a summons issued in terms of Section 7. There was a request. You had a right to deny the request. You were informed in communication that you had the right to deny the request, but that we would use Section 7. Okay, so it wasn't a summons, it was a request to appear. Secondly, I think that the information that we've received in the last 2 days from witnesses has to be taken into context of what was said over here. And I think if you look at the statements that were made, whether or not these abuses can be corroborated, if possible, shows their impartiality immediately. The fact that we've listened to evidence of different people, numerous people that have come to the Commission and stated what in their eyes happened to them, yet we still made, the chairperson still made the statement whether or not these abuses can be corroborated if possible. When it comes to the statements at the end of that paragraph that you are talking about, they can't relate very well with anybody because they claim not to know God, and only one of those vindicated and very oppressive but never known as God of grace and beginning to experience a God of grace and after their departure from their institution. This in their own words. It's stipulated that this is what they said. This is what was stated in front of the cameras. When it comes to the rest of it, the first paragraph, if you remember, I don't know if you were aware, that the Commission went into a full investigation into the abuses of belief systems and everything like that. And based on what the statements that were being made in the last 2 days, if these can be corroborated, it's in context of that, then the church would be in violation. But then if you look at the third answer, if you look at the third paragraph, the requirements of the Commission, for this particular purpose, we focus on religious institutions because we promote religious institutions. Remember, religious institutions have to be a home of hope, cultivating values of friendship, values of humanity, values of tolerance, values of forgiveness. Because at the end of the day, we are set out to create a cohesive society. When these institutions are working in variance, if these matters are corroborated, when these institutions are working at variance with these values, how then do we succeed in creating a cohesive society? And these are the questions as a Commission. Our role is to make sure that these institutions operate in accordance with the dictates of the Constitution of respect of human dignity, because when human dignity is respected, humanity will begin to go here, and this is if they are corroborated, if possible. When it comes to a legal process, allow the accused to respond. We don't have accusers and accusers here at the moment, but there were allegations made against the institution. So the process will hear those that were making those allegations so we could hear their evidence or their side of the story, because this is not about evidence, and then to hear your side of the story. Then the Commission draws up a report, not based on the chairperson's opinion, but based on every single member sitting on this team. A report is drawn up and recommendations are made. That report and those recommendations are then subject to a court of law, which means any recommendation we make can be tested before a court of law. I can assure you that this Commission is impartial. Its primary responsibility is to promote and protect. That's its primary responsibility. And we take that responsibility extremely seriously.
Can I respond? Firstly, just you would know that when it comes to recusal, the law is clear. It's all about perception, not actual, but perception. But even so, your take on the extracts I highlighted, I profoundly disagree with your take. Certainly in terms of perception of the people at the mission. But I notice, but let's take those aside, that might be, but remember the test is perception, reasonable subjective perception of bias. And it's quite clear from the points I've raised that there's clearly a reasonable subjective opinion of bias, that they will not get a fair hearing from the chairman. We're not sure whether you haven't dealt with the first paragraph, because there can be no doubt there. What's happening in KwaZizabantu is not religion. It's what happens when somebody abuses religion or turns religion upside down, so to speak. It's unqualified. There's no doubt what the chairman meant. It's not religion what's happening there. It's been turned upside down. It's been a religion. There is no other interpretation possible.
Just state categorically that the media present here would, in fact, what comes from the mouth of the people who are here. I was giving a summary of what was, because they asked me to give a summary of what we heard. Okay? So that's why I use the word if corroborated, because this summary, even the issue of God, the issue of hateful God and all of that, God of grace, it's not something that comes from me. If you can check this media, has got all of that statement. I was giving a summary. Unfortunately, these could not be in parentheses as you speak. Okay? It's not what I said, it's what the witnesses said here, in full view. So giving a summary, that's what the issue of corroborated is very, very important to ensure our objectivity, impartiality, and independence in these matters. Having heard what
the end of the first paragraph. But I think that's you. The thin line is to look at religion and religious practices, because really, for what is happening in KwaZizabantu is not religion. That's what you think. It's what happens when somebody abuses religion or turns religion upside down. So you think, you've said, this is what I think. What's happening at the mission is not religion. You simply cannot avoid that conclusion.
I am discounting it. If you think abuse is religion, it's something else. And my view is that it's not religion.
No,
It only happens somewhat abusive. But
it's
really,
not religion.
KwaZizabantu cannot exist as a religious institution to perpetuate these things. Eh? And I'm saying it happens only when there's an abuse of religion itself.
Now you're saying what's happening in KwaZizabantu. So you're saying it's actually happening.
Remember, the point I'm trying, we're dealing with a particular institution here. Which is why today, that corroboration, that testing must happen to indicate. That's why I said the gravity. When I say the more explosion, is because we received the, what you call, the affidavits of people, okay? So I'm making a summary here. I'm not giving an indictment or a judgment as such. And my statement is read out of context. Because I'm trying to say, no, this institution cannot exist for the following allegations. And hence, this particular corroboration is important. Hearing those who are concerned, is this true? I mean, if a young woman says to me, to this particular hearing here, I was expelled as a young person of 15. As on my way, and I was dropped in the middle of nowhere. My first menstruation was on the road. I didn't know, as a young woman, what to do. I did not even find a place to sleep. These are the questions I'm going to raise. I said, no.
This is a conclusion you've reached. Of October, the last paragraph, and this confirms that you've reached a conclusion. You say, please note, due to the allegations made, that should you not take advantage of this invite, the Commission will have no other option but to utilise its summoning power in terms of Section 7 of our Act to ensure your attendance. So your very first letter to us, that's the first we get, I think it was on Friday. You conclude by saying due to this confirms that you no, it's veracity of the allegation, the truth of the allegation.
It's allegations. As soon as you
but the veracity.
It's allegations. We're talking about allegations.
But in fact, it's about perception.
It's allegations.
And you,
I think
you the lawyers, it's about perception. No, it's not semantic.
It's your perception.
It's not bad. What's happening in KwaSizabantu is not perception. The chairman has said, what's happening there is not religion. It's an abuse. Here it is. It's his words. What's going with perception? That's what he said. How do you feel like
those that
the chair is very important.
No,
He's the
chairperson
well, he's one member.
The chair is
well, that's why I'm asking for the recusal of the
13 members.
Well, that's why I'm asking for his recusal, because he's expressed his view. He's reached a conclusion. And he hasn't heard
one person, he's one. Person. He doesn't carry any high level of. He doesn't carry any high level of. Impartial.
I'm repeating myself.
I wanted to check if you want to proceed or not proceed.
Well, we're asking you to recuse yourself. You need to make a decision so that we can consider our options.
I'm not recusing myself.
Well, then we need to
consider options
in terms of that.
Yeah.
Could I ask if the rest of the Commission were aware of this interview?
No, we weren't.
So this is just the chair.
But we are together as a committee.
So you all have you support his sentiments expressed in the interview that I
whether or
gave
not
you.
the abuses can be corroborated.
The whole interview.
Yeah.
But the rest of the interview, you support all his sentiments. So, for example, you support that what's happening in KwaSizabantu is not religion, it's abuse. You support that conclusion.
I have explained. If it's
If
corroborated,
these abuses are corroborated,
if these abuses are
can be
corroborated,
corroborated,
yeah.
then yes.
If these abuses are corroborated, okay? The very incisive conclusion is the fact that this is a process of investigation. But these matters, as they have raised in the summary form, in terms of what people have said from their own experiences, these must be corroborated. They will say many things, but all of these, the church will have to put its own side of the story. Okay? People were crying before us here. I couldn't make a judgment that that's true. I said, but as I'm making the point, that I said, KwaSizabantu does not exist for abuse. Religion does not exist for abuse.
No, that's not what you said.
But remember the interpretation. That is called semantics.
It's not semantics.
No, I'm telling you. That's the point. It cannot be.
And remember, Mr. Chair, the law on recusal is perception. And I can tell you now that every congregant who've read this have absolutely no doubt that they will not get a fair hearing from you. Absolutely not a shadow of it. That's their perception. And they base it on this. Also, the history in the last 3-4 days, the letters that have been exchanged. But this is the final nail in the coffin, that they will not get a fair hearing from you. That's the perception.
Remember,
but the test is whether you think. The test is the perception.
Remember, when we draw our report, and our report is something that you don't feel acceptable, then you, on the basis of that, but you can't judge us on the basis of the statements, because I'm telling you the context within which it was said, and how I said it in that context. You see? We didn't say it as if we are accepting everything as the gospel truth. We didn't say that.
So
You
still
have an opportunity to look at our report and say, this report does not represent what we actually say. Today, we want you to take us through what actually happened from your side. Listen to
You've already got that, Mr. Chair, in terms of what is in the Exodus video.
But there's more. There's more. Remember,
we don't know what we're facing. Yeah. That's also that's what the process is.
We interact with you.
Are you not prepared to recuse yourself?
No, I'm not recusing myself.
Can we just take time to consider our options, please? see the commission is not
Oh, okay.
complete.
Okay, let's just wait for her so that we get her. We are back. All of us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for giving us some time. Whatever our response, theology, and throughout this whole process, the words that come to mind in terms of the mission are the words of Philip to Nathaniel in John's Gospel after he had seen Jesus. And he said to Nathaniel, "Come and see." Mr. Chair, we, after considering our position, we decided we need time to consider our options. Firstly, as regards the refusal by yourself, and still not quite sure to what extent the rest of the Commission share your views. There was a measure of ambiguity when I asked whether the rest of the Commission share your views. But as regards the refusal to recuse, and also as regards the other natural justice issues that are of particular importance when it comes to the conduct of Chapter 9 institutions. And once we've considered our options, we will inform the Commission in writing of where we stand. But for now, we would like to put a few things on record. Firstly, as regards the recusal application, as I've already highlighted, the legal test is perception. And I want to put it on record that the people at KwaSizabantu, without hesitation or without exception, the interview that you gave, have perception that they will not get a fair hearing from you, nor if the rest of the Commission buy into what you said in that interview. But we'd want to emphasize again, and I said that in the introduction, that we respect Chapter 9 institutions. If you one day do apply your mind to what is taught at KwaSizabantu, at the end of the day, they seek to submit themselves to the teaching of Scripture, and Scripture is quite clear that we are to respect and to submit to the authorities. But we have a profound problem with how, starting from Friday and culminating in your interview yesterday, of how this Chapter 9 institution has conducted itself in the present matter. And certainly at this stage, it is our view that what has transpired, particularly this interview, amounts to misconduct in terms of the Act, which can in fact have further consequences for a commissioner. Secondly, we want to just place on record again, and yeah, one has to be realistic, that the room is full of the press, and one wonders what they will extract from today. But hopefully there are honest journalists present who will take note of what I'm about to say. And that is from last week already. There are extensive written responses, 132 pages in fact, to what is said in the video Exodus Part 1. And these have been submitted to the police, and considering without a doubt the most serious allegations in that video of multiple ongoing rapes, it's the SAPS which is the appropriate state institution. This has been given to the police. They seized the matter. In fact, it was given to the police last week already. It's been given to the independent panel consisting of an advocate from the Durban Bar and a very senior attorney based in Johannesburg, who have no links with the mission whatsoever. And Mr. Chairman, it was given to you, when I say you, the Commission, last Friday. And we want to put it on record that from the mission's point of view, before anything else is dealt with, that the allegations of multiple ongoing rapes must be dealt with as a matter of urgency. For various reasons. You have the obvious reasons that if they're true, justice must follow swiftly. If they're not true, then the rest of the house of cards, in terms of allegations against the mission, collapses. Because if witnesses are prepared to make these allegations of multiple ongoing rapes, which is accompanied by life sentences, and the police find there's no basis for them, and it's only the police who can, because they're the only ones with the necessary power. They have to put a docket together, and then they have to send it to the National Prosecuting Authority. This commission, with the greatest respect, simply doesn't have the power nor the skills to do the necessary work in this regard. But if it's found that that is baseless, then those witnesses who've come to you, how on earth can you believe anything else they say? Because then they've used an incredibly cynical method to sensationalize their story. And it's interesting that the makers of the video, Exodus 1, they included two of the star witnesses talk about multiple rapes. Best to our knowledge, the makers haven't submitted any evidence to the police. But they chose to put it in there, no doubt, because it will increase their viewership. So it's the mission's position, and we want to put it on record, that that's our main focus at this stage, simply because of the gravity of rape. They prepared a response yesterday, as a leadership. And in the response, they say the following when it comes to rape. In this regard, we completely share the view of Matia A.J. in S versus Daimani ECD CC 12/2007 as regards the monstrous evil of rape. And then there's a quote from the judgment. I have an aversion for adjectives and exaggeration by the judge, but in the light of the statistics highlighted above, I can, without fear of contradiction, state that our province, and indeed our country, faces an evil of gigantic proportions, especially when it comes to the barbaric dehumanization and brutalization of girl children by means of rape. And to just declare myself, it was my judgment. I was the judge. And that's why the mission wants to put on record that that's the focus, because that's its view. It's a barbaric dehumanization of women, fundamentally in conflict with everything that Jesus taught. And if it's true, the perpetrators must be brought to book, but the correct state institution is the SAPS. But it's not true, and you'll see in what we said to you, dealt with affidavits, which show they're baseless. If it's not true, then those who've made the statements and those who are publishing them must be brought to book, at the very least for criminal defamation and criminal injury. And then, of course, everything else that's said in that program must simply be disregarded if they're prepared to be part of such a monstrous lie. And then finally, we would put it on record that, as I've said, that the SAP has already been to the mission, and we have given them right from day one. In fact, we went to the police. There are case numbers. And we have given them our full cooperation from day one. Chair, so that's all I want to put on record, and just to repeat, we would then need time, in the light of your refusal to recuse yourself and other natural justice deficiencies in the process that you're following, just to consider our options. And we will, as soon as possible, we've responded promptly at all times in the past 2 weeks. We will not, there will be no unnecessary delay, but as soon as we've formulated how we're going to respond, we will provide that in writing to you. We must say up front that our main focus at this stage is to give full assistance, and we'd only be distracted from that, to the police in their investigations, because we believe that that is what's going to unlock just the monstrous lie that this is all about. So that, I would then ask, Mr. Chair, that you then excuse us from your proceedings.
Before you leave, it is important for us to put on record that we are here to listen to you, as we have listened to the witnesses from Monday to yesterday. The difference between us and the police is that the police will deal with the criminal aspect of the abuse. We deal with the religious rights of members to institutions of worship. That's why we established. In my interviews, I included the values for which this commission stands and must promote. And one of those values is the respect of human dignity. when we talk about humanity, respect of human dignity, the tolerance, friendship, and peace. That's what we're trying to do. Okay? So we're not taking the religious, the criminal route. Even the issue of money laundering does not belong to us. But we do have a relationship with organs of state where we refer matters for further investigation, even prosecution. That we do. We're giving you an opportunity today, given the fact that this particular issue is in the public domain, but that you what the witnesses told South Africa about what happened there. For us, in the presence of the media, to debunk some of the assertions made, some of the claims made. Yes, we agree, you have the right to postpone. It's a pandemic. It's intolerable. No institution of any kind can claim to violate this constitution by virtue of violating human dignity. At this point, we're not even talking about the freedom of religion, because we protect the freedom of religion. We do not close churches. We are against closing churches. But we want to correct if there are misconduct, if there are practices that are untoward. We have never called you a cult. It cannot be religion to abuse, to rape, and all of that, which was what relates or identifies or defines who we are. But we respect your right to go and have to this.
And money. You're saying, order for the Commission to establish the nature and validity of these allegations. You say there you actually say you are going to deal with this.
Remember.
With all that, so money laundering, with rape, with cult. That's what you said in your letter, and you signed it.
Yeah, but what I'm telling you, the claims out there, the claims. But I'm telling you what we are about. So you understand what we're about. We're not going to charge anyone. We don't have those powers. But we want to understand and restore the integrity of the institution. Because these allegations are damning to the institution. But it's up to you. You choose that route, that's fine.
But you're a theologian, Mr. Chair. At the end of the day, it's not for a commission or state organ to restore the integrity of the church. The only one the church must look to for justification is Christ. That doesn't mean we can't participate in this process. But also to repeat that we've actually, there's 132.
What degree?
Actual divinity.
Okay. I have a PhD. PhD. Systematic theology. Okay? I speak with authority in what I'm saying. Okay? As you would as a lawyer. So that's for another debate.
You say you weren't looking at the issue of money laundering in the letter. You say you were.
These are allegations.
But you just said you weren't going to be looking at that.
But
And
remember,
in the letter you said you were going to look at it.
I said these are allegations.
Which you're going to look at.
Remember, when people speak, they will tell us about the nature of the institution. And in telling us about the nature of the institution, it will fall within the category of a cult or something else. But it is in the interaction, okay? We are giving the formulation of the allegations.
Anyhow, you've got 132 pages from last week already. Extensive responses from the mission.
Remember, we wanted to hear from you. We didn't want to read papers and conclude from papers. We wanted to hear from you. What do you know, what you don't know? It may well be certain things that did not happen under your care, but we want to know.
Mr. Chair, I'm afraid I'm totally unpersuaded by your reassurances. If you look at the last 5 days, I'm totally unpersuaded.
Okay.
But I think we have to agree to disagree.
Agreement.
Would you
Thank you
excuse
so
us,
much.
please?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dedicated today to speaking to the church, but as you have heard, the church was not prepared to speak to us. In fact, my view is that they clutched on the straws. The problem is bigger. We wanted for them to tell South Africa what actually transpired. I think you indicated to me you wanted to hear my summary, which is what I did. The summary was not an indictment to the church at all, but it emanated from a conversation which we had, the testimony given by the people here. I was just restating, okay? That was the only thing I was doing, but not making an indictment to the church at all. So, members of the commission, do you have anything to say?
Just like to reiterate that the reason why we haven't insisted that they remain in front of us because they were never issued. This was a friendly request for them to appear before us, just as all those that made allegations a request to come and give this story to us. So from a commission's point of view, they have the right to leave the way they have because it was a
from what they thought, what they claim to be their side, this would be enough for you to draw a report on.
This was an opportunity for us, really, because some of the things they need to be tested. And the only way to test them is to speak to them. We can't test what is said there. That's why even if you make an affidavit, you have to go to court. You have to test the veracity of what you have said. So today was really a conversation with the church. So we are going to also sit back and reflect on this before just giving what it is that we're going to do. But the matters are not the issues. Will even reject God because of that. So our responsibility is to Section 31A and B of the Constitution, where no one should be denied the right to enjoy worship, to enjoy religion and things like that. So because abuse affects that relationship. So we are going to be looking at that. Okay? Any question? Okay? Any question?
The length to which you can go.
Yeah. Our commission mandates us to protect the rights of cultural, religious, and linguistic communities. We protect and promote. Now, what are these rights? The right is for people to enjoy, to participate, to be members of religious institutions. When that does not happen, it means their rights are denied or their rights are violated. So we need to make sure that these people are protected, that when they belong to institutions of religion, whatever the case may be, they are not treated as objects.
We do have the investigative powers and we do have the ability to investigate these issues. When it comes to the other areas, we look into all as anybody that wishes to bring
Yeah. And he's talking about the deadline as well. And when are we going to continue that? As soon as possible. As soon as we're here, we organize the same in depending on the number of people we have. We might even use Zoom, whatever the case may be, to obviate issues of costs. Yeah.
Prof. Masoma, are you still going to KwaSizabantu tomorrow?
We were invited to accompany the MEC, MECs in fact. We still have to talk to them at what their views are. Not be enough to visit. I mean, we're not we have no grudge against KwaSizabantu. We want to see, in fact, it's our job to see the facility. But if they will explain to the MEC and hear what she has today to say. But our responsibility, no place can be barred from us. We go there. Yeah.
Just for clarity, should KwaSizabantu decide not to, so like they said they're going to think about whether they want to come back, should they decide not to, what then happens? Will you then summon them? Will you continue investigation without them?
And I'm not so comfortable to reveal the strategy we're going to use. But we have that option of summoning them. They may well even turn their minds and say, please come, we want to hear, we want to set up our story. So we give them the option as well. But all depends. We'll really think about this properly as a commission. What next? Okay? Any other question? Good. Thank you so much. The meeting is over.